friends, welcome. This is Julie Tillman, and today we're going to be making a fun little card design. It looks fancy, but it's really quick and easy, and best of all, you can use up some of those scraps. I'm going to be using the May box of the month. So I cut two 3/4 inch strips from three different pattern papers. And mine are 6 inches long, but the length doesn't really matter that much. You just need it to be long enough to cover the panel from your initial start point. So for this card today, I'm going to be using the Summer Mountain Meadow ephemera that's in the box of the month. And I'll be using the flower image as my focal point. And then I'm still deciding between that poppy and the butterfly for the accent on my sentiment circle. I've already stamped the Friendship Grows Here sentiment from the 6x6 set in the box, and then die cut it with nested circles, and also did a blue mat for that. For our background panel, we'll start with a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of solid cardstock. I chose a dark blue to match the berries in my paper. Since some of the strips have a white background, I thought the dark blue would add more contrast than white on white. So that's why I chose a colored cardstock, but if you prefer white, go ahead and do that. For pattern selection, I chose to pair two of the busier prints with a more subdued red gingham to give a nice contrast. We'll also be doing a tone-on-tone stenciling on the background with that striped honeycomb stencil. I just love it, and I think the geometric lines go well with the V formation. That red gingham print is from the Woodland Summer paper pack, and we'll be using the berries and the poppy paper from the Summer Mountain Meadow paper. Okay, to get started, we first need to find our starting point on the 4 by 5 1/4 inch panel. So we're going to measure from that midpoint. So on this, it would be 2 inches from the bottom. Then we're going to go up 1 1/8 inch at that midline, the 2 inch line, and we'll make a tick mark at 1 1/8 inch. Next, we'll measure 3 1/8 inches from the bottom, and we will make a tick mark right there at 3 1/8 inch on that right edge of the paper, and this will get us the correct angle. Then we'll take our first piece and add some adhesive to one end, and then we're going to line up the corner tip of the strip with our midpoint tick mark, and then angle the strip up to meet that 3 1/8 inch tick on the side. And there we go. That's the most technical part of the whole card, is getting that first angle. From here on out, we're just using the strip below to line up our V. If you're working with scraps, you can cut that excess off and use it right now for the second part of the V, but I'm going to leave mine until later. I'm leaving a slight gap between the two papers and then lining it up so the angle looks nice before I burnish it down. If you don't care for the gap, it's very easy to just line up the papers flush, and it gives a great look as well. Then we'll just repeat this process with the remaining strips, making sure to give about the same amount of gap between each strip if you're using a gap. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but it does give a nice little V formation, and I just love the way it pops with that little bit of blue behind it. If you're using a directional print like this poppy one, just to make sure that it's facing the right direction before you glue it down. And here you have a choice of just leaving that V at the top. It's a nice look, but I am going to finish mine. But before I do, I'm going to burnish everything really well so nothing wants to buckle or fall off. And then I'm going to cut off those excess strips so that I can use them to finish out the card. Once we have all of those excess pieces cut off, we can take our next print. I'm going to go with the red gingham again for a little contrast, and we'll just use these scraps to fill in the V. If your scraps have an angle on them, just square them up with scissors and you can use it again for the next part of the V. Since this will be just a tiny piece on the panel, I'm going to secure it with both liquid glue and tape runner, and then I'll add a little magnet to it to let it dry before I cut off the excess. So while that's drying, we can move on to our stenciling. I'm going to cover up those bottom strips with a little masking tape so that I don't get ink on them when I'm doing the stenciling. So you could have done the stenciling on the whole panel before gluing all the pieces down, but I think this way uses a little bit less ink since you're only stenciling the part that will be seen. So I'm just going to lay this down on a sticky mat and put my stencil over it. And then I'm going to go in with a blending brush and some Dress Blues ink. This is a really deep blue, and I think it shows up really well on this dark cardstock. The stenciling is optional. I just think it's a nice way to add a little bit of texture and interest to the panel so it doesn't look quite as plain. But there's nothing wrong with plain. I just like to jazz things up just a little bit. Now I'll pull off those masking pieces and we have a beautiful background ready. It's super pretty, just like this. So you could just add a sentiment or maybe a focal image in the center and call it good. But I decided to use some of the ephemera down below. So I'm going to pop the flower piece up on dimensional foam right in the bottom center of the card. And then I'll be taking the sentiment circle and I'm matting it with the blue cardstock. And then I'll tuck it in over on the side of the flowers, like right about there. And now I'm just auditioning those pieces. I did decide to go with the butterfly like I did on the last card, just because I'm a butterfly girl. So I'm just going to tuck in that sentiment and adhere it down. And now I'm adding a couple of foam dots to that little butterfly to add it as an accent to the sentiment circle. And I just love the way this card came together. I'm just going to add it to an A2 card base. And you could be done there, but I'm a more of is more kind of crafter. So I'm going to add some sparkly enamel dots. And I think I pulled from the Bunny Blush set, and it's these nice white sparkly ones. Yes, it is Bunny Blush. And in what might be a controversial decision, I'm going to add 5 enamel dots. I just absolutely love sparkle, and I am in absolutely no danger of ever running out of embellishments in my craft room. Do you have that problem? They seem to multiply like bunnies in my room. So there we have our finished card. And since I can't leave scraps alone on my desk, I did make a second card with some of the scraps. I used the butterflies from the other ephemera pack in the box, and I just used those extra strips in a row from the top. I stenciled the whole background first this time. Then I placed the first strip down and used a ruler to line up the angle for the next one and repeat it again for the third strip. The sentiment is from Teresa's One and Done Sentiments, A Little Sunshine, and cut with the coordinating die. So there's a little inspiration for some quick cards using just scraps and ephemera. It's always nice to have a few ideas like that in your back pocket. If you're interested in the box of the month, I believe there are still some openings in the shop. You can purchase it as a one-time purchase, or you can subscribe monthly and get an 18% discount. If that's not in your budget, and believe me, I know all about the budget right now, you can also get just the papers and ephemera individually. So thanks so much for stopping by today. I hope you were inspired to create, and I'll catch you on the next one.